As President Obama travels to and from the White House, the #1 concern of his motorcade is keeping the president safe. One critical constant is a D.C. fire and EMS ambulance, typically Medic 1, trailing behind in the event of a medical emergency. But on August 8th, as the President and First Lady were leaving the White House to celebrate Mr. Obama's 52nd birthday with dinner at Resica, Medic 1 ran out of gas. Fire officials confirmed that the vehicle was towed to Apparatus Division and is now being repaired off-site. Fire officials say per policy, the crew should have, but did not fill up the tank that day. Sources say the bigger issue is the vehicle's fuel gauge had been broken for months and had not been repaired.
Why did it run out of gas? Was it a faulty gas gauge? How long did they know that they had a faulty gas gauge?
For months, D.C. Councilman Tommy Wells has been critical of the department for not quickly addressing a fleet in disrepair.
This is just an example that highlights the fact that we're not where we need to be.
According to the official press pool report, the motorcade left the White House that night at around 6:40. A fire department spokesman says another ambulance, Medic 7, was dispatched and arrived at the White House at 6:59, nearly 20 minutes later. But by then, the motorcade was long gone, as the restaurant is only a couple miles away. What we do know, according to this White House pool video, is that when the motorcade left Resica, Medic 7 was parked off to the left. Multiple sources familiar with protocol say since Medic 7 was not in the motorcade, it likely had not gone through a security sweep and therefore could not be used by the president if something had happened. Now back live here in Northwest Washington, where that motorcade went through just last Thursday. We should note that due to safety and security reasons in regards to the president, a spokesperson for the Secret Service declined to talk at all about this story and about this incident. As far as the fire department, officials with that agency are investigating. They have told us that the crew aboard Medic 1 could face harsh disciplinary action.
How's it going there, Billy? How many do you have? I was going to say you have some really pretty ones over here.
We don't normally associate bright colors with heartbreak.
Gabriella loves purple and pink and turquoise, and she didn't like it when people wore dark colors around her.
But then again, Gabriella Miller, the girl who inspired this gathering,
Wise beyond her years,
was hardly a normal 10-year-old.
She accomplished more in 11 months than most of us would accomplish in a lifetime.
For days, volunteers worked round the clock at organizer Chris Kroll's home in Leesburg, Virginia.
Thank you. You guys really made a lot of progress.
They dropped walnuts into vases, then filled them with paper tissue flowers.
we're using some of the smaller flowers to help actually anchor the flowers into the vase.
These bouquets were created to serve as an enduring legacy to a remarkable life.
Hi, my name is Gabriella Miller. I'm 10 years old, and I have brain cancer.
Following her diagnosis last November, Gabriella Miller became the unofficial national spokesperson for childhood cancer awareness.
We used to kid that we were going to have to get a booking agent for her. She was so in demand. Everyone wanted to hear from her.
She worked tirelessly, despite arduous chemo and radiation treatments, to raise money for childhood cancer research through her foundation, Smashing Walnuts. Her tumor was the size of a walnut, so to symbolically destroy the disease, she smashed away whenever she could, with anyone who would join her. Her mission was to inspire people to act, because only 4% of all federal cancer research funds go to pediatric forms of cancer.
So start now, before another tragedy strikes. Start this year, this month, this week, tomorrow. Start now. I want to say one more thing.
For the last year, we chronicled the challenges and triumphs of this plucky fifth grader from Loudoun County who galvanized a movement of giving. She raised $250,000 for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, was named Loudoun County's Volunteer of the Year, co-authored a book, and even earned an honorary college degree.
Now I have homework to do for that class, and I'm ready to do it.
The things that she did and accomplished going through that period, yeah, she's a hero.
Whether visiting an oncology unit or giving a motivational speech, she convinced anyone who would listen that more should be done so kids like her won't have to face this crushing possibility.
My fear is that, I'm gonna die.
In what would be her last sit-down interview, Gabriella did not hold back her frustrations last month with Truth 365, a documentary that gives a voice to children with cancer.
Do whatever you want with this, but I just have to say it. Talk is we need actions.
And that was Gabriella. Always direct, always delightful. Regardless of her fate, she left this world laughing. The tumor she so bravely battled came back with unforgiving speed. She slipped away on October 26th, surrounded by family and close friends.
7 kids a day in the United States alone die from cancer. And I hate it more than anything that my child is one of those statistics. That is not okay.
And Mark and Ellen Miller want the world to see the horrifying and sobering reality of their experience.
You know, let people see that. Let people see that it is not okay that your 6-year-old son is carrying the casket of your 10-year-old daughter, because that's what happens in childhood cancer.
Is there a box that you guys are putting these in?
When Gabriella's circle of social media friends from across the country heard she was nearing the end of her fight, a request went out for people to mail in and drop off colorful arrangements to brighten this family's darkest hour. Nearly 10,000 flowers arrived in only a few days. For the Millers, these radiant signs of support defined their daughter's spirit.
She said she wanted to be an eagle so she could soar above the clouds.
Yeah.
And that's what she is now, soaring high above.
At her memorial service, hundreds of those flower-filled vases lined the hallway leading to the gym that was, of course, packed with thousands of people.
If I never do anything greater the rest of my life than to have been loved by that little girl, I will consider this life to have been a very, very successful one.
Those flowers are now heading to hospitals, oncology offices, and research wings, so children diagnosed with cancer can see a sliver of hope where there might not be any, and maybe inspire a cure for a wretched disease that robs children of their dreams.
You know, if I lose my battle, then, you know, I'm going to want other people to carry on with the war. They're going to win this war. But, you know, I'll be with my friends, and I'll be in a good place, and it won't be all that bad.
The weather is really beautiful. The sun was just coming up as we got to the airport.
Soon after the sun crested the horizon at Manassas Regional Airport, the last planes arrived. But these airshow pilots with the Warrior flight team,
Here, that's the pull jet. That's the one you're in. Yeah.
who traveled here from across the country, like retired Lieutenant Colonel Art Knowles,
Did you already secure the cap on the top there? Okay.
did not show up to show off their gleaming war machines from bygone eras. They're here for a selfless tribute to 2 fallen airmen who these military veterans never knew.
We're bringing these heroes home, and I get to be a part of that.
In the summer of 1969, U.S. Air Force Majors Jim Sizemore and Howard Andre were shot down in their A-26 Invader during a combat mission over Laos. Sizemore's son James was 9.5 years old at the time.
Tragic, you know, the whole world came to a crashing end at that moment.
A generation of grief turned one day into hope. The crash site in Laos was discovered and excavated in 2012, and the bodies of both men were identified in April of 2013. Monday afternoon at Arlington National Cemetery, Major Sizemore and Andre, missing in action for more than 40 years, were buried with full military honors. So families who grieved longer than their loved ones were alive could finally say goodbye. The Air Force, though, citing budget cuts, declined months ago to perform a flyover at this rare dual burial for airmen killed in action. But when Warrior Flight Team leader Pat Marsh pitched the idea to his civilian pilots,
Basically, all of them said, hell yeah, I want in. I would be an honor.
after securing permission to fly in D.C. airspace from numerous agencies, including the FAA and Homeland Security, this band of 8 civilian pilots aboard vintage planes roared into action. The first plane to pass over Arlington National, a B-25 bomber. Moments later, 2 P-51 Mustangs flew astride an A-26 Invader, the same kind of plane that Sizemore and Andre crashed in. And lastly, 4 L-39s soared by with one peeling off in the missing man formation. At a reception after the service, James Sizemore thanked the pilots who volunteered to tell the last chapter in his father's life.
I feel overwhelmed, but I also feel so joyful and so glad, so proud that this day could happen.
Buried together in wreckage for more than 40 years, Majors Sizemore and Andre are now buried side by side.
The skies opened up, and you know, it's almost like those guys are up there watching us, and you know, up there with God making this happen.
Jay Korff, News Channel 8.
The I-Team's Jay Korff has been working on this story for days. He's now live in our newsroom with a new exclusive angle hours after breaking this investigation. Jay, what is the latest?
Leon, according to sources, what you're about to hear is Georgetown women's basketball coach Keith Brown berating some of his players after a workout back in September. Now, we obtained this cell phone audio from persons who said they were fed up with Coach Brown's behavior. We also had former players listen and respond to this recording. They all told us this was not the exception, this was the norm.
I'm being tested. The ones who know that you should never test me because I have no tolerance for foolishness. I don't believe in perpetuating the bull.
Sources tell ABC 7 News that during a meeting in September, head women's basketball coach Keith Brown scolded various players, one for getting angry with herself.
You're a grown woman, and you done been through this up and down 100 times over. Your solution to the problem is not to get frustrated and hit a wall and up so we ain't got no, because that's stupid. So that comes under Keith Brown's, so I have my own vocabulary, if you didn't notice. You're a dumb.
Sources say he singled out another player for not getting along with teammates.
You're being defiant just to be defiant. Am I correct? Yeah. So, in other words, now that was a Georgetown term. Okay. So now I'm gonna translate these for the Keith Brown. So you with me just to with me. Is that what it is? Because if you being defiant just to be defiant, you with me. So you with me. See, that's how I see it. See, I'm from the hood. I'm an educated from the hood.
Soon after this meeting, allegations of unprofessional conduct surfaced. Coach Brown and assistant coach Tim Valentine were placed on leave. An investigation was launched. Soon after we played those clips for a Georgetown official, Brown resigned. Now, former Hoyas who played under Coach Brown are speaking exclusively to ABC 7. They asked we not use their names.
Yeah, I mean, I've been called dumb, like, you know, a dumb F or a dumb MFer.
They say Brown's insulting words drove players to leave the program, while some who remained ended up demoralized.
At the end of the day, words hurt, especially from people that you consider your family. Like, we're 1,000 miles away from home. Like, this is supposed to be our family. These are supposed to be people that uplift us. And it was abuse. Like, it's a type of abuse. It's a mental abuse.
And we had Jake Wald with the Positive Coaching Alliance. Listen to the recording.
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing, to say the least.
Wald's organization is considered a national leader in efforts to change the culture of coaching, so sports builds and does not tear down someone's character.
If you imagine a chemistry professor at Georgetown speaking the same way, how would that change your mind about this whole situation? I think they would be run out of the university right away.
And a former player who tells us at one time she greatly admired Coach Keith Brown makes clear her feelings.
Unless he makes a major life change, I don't think that he should be coaching women's basketball anywhere in the country.
Georgetown reacted to the audio recording by saying, quote, "That behavior does not meet expectations and standards for the university and its leaders. It's inconsistent with our values and has no place in our community." As sources tell us, some of the players on the team who supported Coach Brown are taking this hard, insisting his style is motivating and is the norm in Division I athletics. The assistant coach, also named in the initial investigation, Tim Valentine, we should point out, has been cleared of all wrongdoing and is back with the team. Repeated attempts to reach Coach Brown for comment have proven unsuccessful. We are live in the newsroom. Jay Korff, ABC 7 News.
Nice work. Thank you, Jay.